Hello and welcome to another episode of Electricpreneur Secrets, the Electricians Podcast. I'm your host, Clay Newmeyer. This is my esteemed co-host, Joseph Lucani, beside me. And we're here with you 5 days a week to help you master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level electrical service.
You
If you're
missed it
not,
on me.
if you're not an electrician and you're listening, I'm intrigued. I'd love to hear your intro and what you're all about. Unless you're Otis, who's with us. Otis is grinding out there. We've been chatting with him a little bit. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. You threw me off on the cadence for a second. I was
I
doing
know.
the conducting and I'm like, electrical service. He's not wrong, but it was off cadence.
I had to throw that in there today. I had
You
to.
may, that's what it was. You know, you keep me on my toes. That's
I
really what it
wanted
is.
to
Right?
make sure that everyone listening knew they were in the right place and that this was not a scam. Isn't that fitting for today's topic?
I think there couldn't be anything more fitting because my God, do I both love and hate scammers. I hate them because I feel like stealing is a cardinal sin. You do not steal from other people. But at the same time, the kind of excuses that they come up with, they're sometimes so funny when you can look at them after the fact and be like, how did I not see this coming?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And even funner than that, if you're Canadian, you might recognize something I plugged into the title here today: to serve and protect, which is, of course, what our Royal Canadian Mounted Police like to say on all their vehicles: to serve and protect and recognize scammers. Joe, have
That's a
you
good
been
thing.
scammed in your personal or business professional life?
Both, unfortunately.
Oh,
But it's one of those things where the best way I've learned to describe it is the quote I like to use of good judgment comes from experience, but experience itself comes from bad judgment.
I
Right?
love
Like,
that quote. Who said that?
I honestly don't know, but the only person I ever heard it from was my father.
Father's a brilliant man. He's got something going for him there.
Guess so, right? But it's one of those things where I heard it as a kid and it stuck with me. And I kept bringing it back in because it's true, right? Like, I know that when I was scammed personally, it felt terrible. It was like, someone almost felt violated, almost like dirty in a way, where you're like, wait a second, I trusted this person. I gave them money and now they're gone and I have nothing to show for it. And the thing is that eventually you have two choices: either become jaded or become wise. I don't believe that being jaded is a sign of strength. I think showing strength is the ability of saying, it is what it is, it happened, and I'm better for it now because now I know how to help others avoid the same pitfall. And
Absolutely.
that's the road I choose to take.
Yeah. I want to share a personal experience here too that actually happened while I was in my work truck, but on personal time. And this
Ooh,
one's
okay.
important because they tapped into my ego. And how they knew to do that was the kind of truck I drove. So this one goes out to all our electricpreneur homies out there, our brethren who are in their favorite whip right now. If you're driving a truck instead of a van because you love this truck, or it's like a Duramax diesel, you don't even pull anything, you're one of those guys. I'd pull the odd thing, but I loved my trucks, Joe. Can you tell?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I
the
had
double
this,
the double diesel dual stack off the top.
yeah, no stacks, no stacks. But I lived in a place that we used to call Fort St. Texas. And there was
Mm.
definitely some people that reminded me of Southern folk who may or may not have had dual stacks out of their box, for sure. Big diesel,
Mhm.
rolling coal out the top. Anyway, point being, I'm in this big dually Chev, longest truck you can buy. Like, the thing is a beast. And it's on like 22-inch rims with 35-inch mutters on it and all the rest, right? Just like a beast. Driving down the road, and I'm in Vancouver. I'm in the city, and this white van pulls beside me at the light, rolls down his window and goes, "Bro, love your truck. Nice style." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, thanks, man." He goes, "I don't mean to bother you, but I've actually got a bunch of audio and video equipment in the back of this van that I just went and didn't install. And it turns out the inventory, we ordered too much. The company paid for it and no one accounted for it. So it's sitting here. It's worth a couple grand. Do you want to have a look at it? You seem like someone that could probably afford this stuff." And I was
Oh,
like,
he got you. He
"Oh,
got
yeah."
you good, didn't
I'm like,
he?
"Sure, yeah, let's have a look." We pulled over to the gas station, and things got weird when I actually legitimately had to use the bathroom. And I told him, I just got to go in, use the bathroom for a minute. I'll pull some cash. I'll come out and we'll talk. And he's like, oh man, you got to go in. Like you can't just talk now, kind of in a rush. And I was like, you stopped me on the side of the road. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
you know where this ends up going. Apparently, this is what they call a white van scam.
Mm-hmm.
Wah, wah, wah. I bought. I gave this guy $700 and he made away laughing. What do you think of that?
Were there rocks in the box?
No, there were no rocks in the box.
That's usually one of the things where you open up, you think like, oh, I got stereo equipment. It's $200. Fell the back of a truck, and you open it up, and it's like, these are just cinder blocks in here. It's
Yeah.
like you can't open the box in a sealed container. If you open it, I can't sell it.
But I'm sure it came from Alibaba.com, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
warehouse full of this $100 stereo equipment that they're trying to make thousands off of. So I did
Mm-hmm.
whittle them down, but that's just one place, and it's happening all over the place. I've saved my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother from Safeway once. She was buying PlayStation and Xbox cards to settle a
Oh,
debt with the CRA, and I was like, Grandma, that doesn't even make sense.
yeah.
Why CRA being the Canadian Revenue Agency, so our IRS, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they
Anyway,
need Xbox cards. You're right. It's like that's definitely what the IRS needs.
bad stuff, right? If you guys have ever been scammed like this and you're in the Facebook group with us live, let us know. Give us a couple of tidbits of those times where you were pushed to the brink of, or actually went through with losing some cash, burning some
Mm-hmm.
cash up with this. Today, we are going to get more specific into the professional end of things and how even a
Mm-hmm.
homeowner might come across a little less than we would hope on the ethics side.
Mm-hmm. I
Have you
can't
ever,
wait to dig into this.
yeah, have you ever had, and do you have examples before we get into our client's example today of on the professional side, someone kind of doing you a bit dirty, Joe, taking advantage of you and your great big
I
heart?
Off the top of my head, I can remember one specific example. Though I'm sure if you give me a little more time, I can probably I could dig in my memory a little harder. But the first thing that came up was I remember we had a client who, or yeah, he was a client actually. He ended up buying with us. But what he wanted was he had to do a renovation for his project. And he was trying to get us to do it fast. He's like, I need this now. I need this now. I need this now. But the problem is that he kept giving reasons why he couldn't come up with a deposit. He needed it now, but he couldn't quite pay for X, Y, Z. But he's good for it because he's got rocks. He's like, he's a up and coming entrepreneur, business person. In fact, if we wanted to join his program, he could be partners with us, and then he'd fill our coffers with so much work we'd have no idea what to do with it. And the entire time I'm looking at it, I'm like, it sounded like a too good to be true kind of offer. I mean, I'm 23 years old. I don't know much about anything. I'm talking to this guy. And I remember the smartest thing I did in that circumstance was simply say, this sounds like an amazing offer. And I'm really excited to talk to you about this. Hell, I mean, if this is as good as you're saying it is, I'd do the whole job for free. Like, why not? But I want to talk to my partner first just because I want to bring him in. And when I did that, he was like, well, hold on here. This is like a you and me. I don't know your partner. Let's just talk. And that's where it started being like, okay, I want to bring someone else in who's 50% controlling of this business. I want to make sure that we can figure this out. And he ended up saying, well, no, let's don't worry about it. Deal's off.
Wow, ghost. Bye bye.
Yeah, completely gone. Just
Okay,
gone, completely set up.
so red flag.
Red flag. So the thing is, there have been a lot of circumstances where I felt like people were trying to scam me. But luckily, after getting scammed once the first time personally, I always looked out for the red flags.
All right. So you guys heard it here first. Action item, go out, get scammed so that you know how to recognize it in the future. Mic drop, end of session. What do you think,
That's
Joe?
it. Get scammed, get gone, right?
Go get
But the
scammed.
thing is that it lines up perfectly with what happened today. One of our clients approached us with a situation. Do you mind if I just dig into it? Because I
Yeah,
feel like it
do it.
lines up
Do
perfectly
it
with what
because
I
we're
was just
just
saying.
bullshitting here, burning time anyway. So,
All right, cool. So the thing was, one of our clients approached us and said, I had a situation where I went to a client's home the other day. And the client called me for a situation with his stove, right? And he had said that his stove consistently trips the moment they put on more than one burner, right? You have one burner, no problem. Two burners, breaker instantly trips. So naturally, following our process, what does he do? He goes and he looks at the panel He finds out the breaker isn't even rated for the panel. There's like knob and tube bars in there. Knob and tube wiring in there. You've got all different sorts of breakers that are not meant to be there. It's clearly a cobbled system.
Right.
The thing was, and this is where the issue was, he told the client specifically, this is the problem right here. He pointed, even took a screwdriver and he poked at the breaker, and the breaker, you could tell, was just completely unseated. It was just sitting there. As soon as he puts it in, got a little crackling, you can hear the circuit connect, pulls it off, nothing.
So clearly dangerous, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, clearly, because you had a 50 amp load on an unseated system. All it takes is slightly a little jarring, and now you can have 50 amps of arc going on. That's how you're getting a melted bus bar, especially if you've got knob and tube and aluminum. In fact, one of the reasons why he even came to the call was he was told that there was aluminum in the system. And that's why he wanted to do it. He had the homeowner was trying to do things on their own. They didn't do a good job. It was just, it's one of those like train wreck situations that just builds and builds and builds, and you can't look away from it, but you don't want to be involved in it.
Yeah.
The situation got a little bit worse when this happened, though. And this is how we know it was starting to be a scam. So he was told, this is a problem that we've had. The next day, the client, the customer calls our client and says, hey, my stove isn't working and I need you to come out here to take a look at it. And he's like, sure, I'd be happy to come back out. I know we were looking at it the other day. Happy to come back out. This is what it costs for us to do that. And the guy was like, wait a second, you're charging me for this? Well, yeah, of course. I mean, this is a service. We're going to provide it. I'm happy to come out. His next message in the text was, well, you were here yesterday and this is clearly your fault because you were the last one here. I don't think it's reasonable that you should charge us for this. Now, this is the red flag that I want everyone to listen to. This is all in text. Our client said, well, yesterday you told us that the breaker was consistently tripping, and we even pointed out that there was a concern. The red flag is that he completely skipped over that message and inserted another statement. Anytime you have someone avoiding answering something over text that could be incriminating to themselves, that is a sign that you're going to get scammed, especially if they rapidly change the question. It's not like it sat there in his inbox and then he asked something else. He immediately shifted the conversation to something else and did not address it. What does that tell you, Clay?
Well, I took a couple of things from it. First off, this is one of our Canadian clients. So this is an engagement with a fellow Canadian who's typically pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a Canadian so unpleasant in recent times. So number
What's
one,
the
I
world
just
coming
pointed
to?
that out. This guy was not polite at all.
Do we get to revoke his Canadian card at that point? Like if you're not a certain level of nice, you're like, nah, sorry, you got to go south of the border here.
Didn't even say please, thank you, or open the door for us. I mean, it's
Oh,
crazy, man.
travesty,
Crazy.
heresy, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I appreciate they bring up the red flags and just recognizing these moments. I think that's what we learned from this is recognizing, as you said, without that being in text, then what that leads, it could be a bit of a stalemate or kind of a he said, she said. And having something in writing really does help there. I know personally, I dealt with this on projects a ton. For projects, the added dimension is everyone's on schedule constraint. So, oh yeah, no, just go and do that and we'll take care of it later. Okay, so I'll send you an email covering what we just talked about. And if you could clearly instruct me to do that, we'll provide you with pricing, go through the proper management of change. Yeah, but let's just get it after. Just get the work done so then we're back on schedule.
My first thought when I hear that is like, you can go F yourself because clearly you're trying to get free work on this $100,000 project. And every time that ever happened to me, there was actually one particular contractor. And if you're ever listening, I hope you get what's coming to you because his word was always, you look at all the money you guys are making. He'd always be like, look at all the money you're making. And it's like, so that's a justification for you to take advantage of me. So Clay, how did it feel when you knew that people were actively trying to get one over on you?
You know what? At that time, you're between a rock and a hard place. So I can relate. You're trying not to offend someone. You're trying not to be judgmental ahead of their actions that you may or may not expect. It's a hard situation to be in, especially when you have relationships and rapport built with people. It's very tough to exercise that diligence at times Oh, you're right. We are friends. But I've seen this, Joe. I've seen this time and time again flop. And all of a sudden, you're in a 5 grand, 10 grand hole. And that person says, I never said that. I seriously don't recall saying that. If you have ever wanted to feel crazy, this is the position to put yourself in. The he said, she said game is not a lot of fun. And I'm sure there's a lot of people doing one of these nodding right now, going, oh, yeah, I've tasted that. Yeah,
Been there too.
Yeah, especially when they use those words. Well, we're friends, right? We got this. We're good. Go ahead. Proceed.
We're never friends.
And
we're
then,
never friends
that
that
never
involve
happened.
money.
Oh, kind of like our friendship? Kind of like the rapport we have? That never happened, right? I made that up. Make you crazy for sure.
Gaslighting extremes.
Yeah. Anyways, we got off track a little bit. Let's get back to the client case here. So in this case, what do? Do you go back, Joe?
So the thing is there's actually a part of our process which specifically prevents this from ever happening in the first place. Can I dig into what we would do in that situation and how we can overcome it?
I'd be mad if you didn't.
Awesome. So let's break down the situation we're currently in, right? We went out to the home. We knew there was a problem. The client specifically told us that they know that they had a problem. We then left. There was no options given. There was no invoice given. There was nothing documented. That's where it stayed off. That's the biggest problem. Then the client tells us that they have a problem and that it was clearly our fault because we were the last ones out there. Then when we tried to bring up the fact that we noticed and that they told us, they completely omitted that part. If we backtrack a little bit, we can save ourselves, because when we do our options, regardless of what it is, it includes customer title, date, address, observations, then options. The observation section would save your ass here, because what it would do is it would be able to say customer reported consistent tripping, or customer reported consistent issues with their main electrical stove, or customers reporting that every time they turn on 2 burners, the breaker trips, detected aluminum wiring, detected unsafe electrical conditioning, detected unsafe main electrical control point. You would have that in your observations. Then from there, you would have 6 options detailing all these things. At the very minimum, if you've done this the right way, like, you know how when we tell everyone how we screenshot something, that screenshot saves a date. You can go to your iPad and physically scroll down, pull up your 3 tabs on the right-hand side, and it'll tell you the picture photo info. It'll tell you the exact time you were there and the exact time you screenshotted it. So in a legal situation, you can say, we were at your home. We reported these issues. We have an exact timestamp that we were there. And we had it set up to where you knew about these issues. Further than that, we would, if they chose to still do nothing and we were concerned about a safety concern, we would still be collecting for our diagnostic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we'd be charged to go out. If they don't choose to move forward, we collect that upon completion.
Yeah.
So in that invoice, we would also include a special work order line item. In that would be for $0. We detected an electrical safety concern in the main electrical control system regarding the stove. Customer has chosen not to address the safety concern at this time. Options have been presented and will be saved on file for future reference. Customer has to sign that.
Yeah.
If they don't want to sign it, that shows a lot. And in fact, I'd like to touch into that. What does it say when they won't sign that?
That they won't accept the responsibility of your findings.
Exactly. But why would they choose not to sign it? What could that do to benefit? How could they be trying to get one over on you by not having it signed?
By being able to say they didn't acknowledge that, or you didn't present it.
Exactly.
Back to he said, she said. So
in that situation, what you would end up doing is you could have the customer where you're going through your invoice. And let's just play devil's advocate here. Let's say, sake of argument, they're telling you, no, I don't want this done. Or no, I don't believe what you're telling me is true. Well, what we would do is say, okay, I completely understand where you're coming from. Would you like me to physically show you what I'm talking about? The panel cover is still off, or the main electrical control system cover is still off. I'm happy to take you down there and address it. Regardless, I always advise you to take pictures of safety concerns and take them before you bring it to the customer's attention. The reason why is for two things. One, a picture says 1,000 words, but a picture could also be worth $1,000. If you were to show someone a physical video of you moving a breaker back and forth and the arcing happening between it, you could say, I'm noticing this particular concern. You timestamp that as well. Now, if you are presented to a court of law where you have options detailing you found a problem, an invoice that they refuse to sign stating this information, and if nothing else, a video saying, here are the unsafe situations that we found, you're safe now. And at the very least, even if they wanted to write you a bad review, we can handle that too. Because so often do people come to you and say, you know what? If you don't, I'm going to burn you online. I'm going to close your business down. I'm going to give you a scathing review.
Yeah. I'm going to add something to this too.
Go
For
for it.
those of you listening that are more on the document heavy side, like I am, and the reason for that is so many projects with so much QA/QC documentation. So I absolutely love my bling bling documents. Here's one of which that we often use, and many of you are likely using already. Your visual inspection, your critical home inspection piece. Sometimes people say, well, where do you put that? When building your observations is a great time to execute those inspections. If you have a piece like the one we use, it even references the code, references equipment, has a section for you to put your recommendations and check off that there is a dangerous condition there. That also has a signature point at the bottom with your disclaimer, right? So all of that adds to this and builds your case. And I think that stuff's really important.
I love that. I think it's a great ad.
Change the game.
Exactly.
Okay.
So going into a little more depth on this, because I want to speak to a lot of fears that I know I had and that someone else probably who's listening has as well. And that is, have you ever heard the phrase, the customer is always right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I know. Just that the fact
Did
that
I
you said
sigh out loud there? Sorry about that.
No, you're allowed. The fact that you signed meant that you knew it, right? Because the customer's not always right. I don't want to ever feel like I'm being demeaning to anyone. We are all people, regardless of our levels of intellect, capacities, skills. We're all people. But there is a difference between someone who's moral and immoral. Now, when someone's immoral, we treat them a little bit differently once we determine that they're immoral. The thing is that when we're going to have a situation, the most common thing that they will threaten you with is a bad review. Because what can they really do? There's been no money exchanged at this point. There's nothing that you've done. You have all the documentation, but let's say you didn't. For the person right now that said, I didn't make options, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, you can still save your butt and cover yourself with how you handle your review. Because the review, cover your ass. When you're in a situation where, let's say, the person does actually make good on their threats, because you're not going to cave, because once you cave, they will always take advantage of you. But because you didn't cave, they make good on it and they say, you know what, we're going to blast you online. Service Loop Electrical came out and they looked at my panel when I didn't even ask them to look at it, and they caused a problem and they were going to charge me to come fix it. Okay, that's pretty bad, right?
What if they wrote this? Service Loop, more like service dupe. These guys just duped me a good one.
Did you have that on lock? Like, did you have that on standby ready?
I'm trying to say anything mean and just emotional that I can here.
Is this like the Canadian way of being mean? I love it. So let's go into that though. Let's say they come into like service loop, no, like service droop. Nah, I'm not about it. All right. So the thing that we would want to say is we could always highlight our morals, our dedication to serve, and why we do the things we do. So the message I can start off with, Clay, thank you so much for taking the time of your day to give us your feedback on this. Though I am disheartened to know that you felt like you did not receive a 5-star experience, I'd be happy to describe what our perspective happened and how we can still help you in this situation. Here at Service Loop Electrical, we believe in safety, quality, and customer service, which is why when we went to your home, we looked at the entire electrical system as a whole to prevent any problems like you're actually specifically saying. What we noticed while we were there is we noticed that you had an imminent, a major electrical fire hazard or a major electrical safety concern, which would be true because you have a 50 amp arcing main electrical breaker. That's a problem, right? But we've noticed that you had a major electrical safety concern. Naturally, we brought this to your attention because we wanted to offer ways that we could correct it. The options were declined at that time. And as a whole, or as such, because we weren't able to move forward repairing it, the problem stayed as is. Now, regardless, we would still be honored to come back and help you because we truly do love serving our community. If you would like us to come back out, I'd be more than happy to even waive the diagnostic charge and to come out and do our best to serve you at the highest level. If you'd be interested, you can reach us at this, that. There you go.
Good job. P.S. It's service loop, not service dupe. Thank you. Come again.
There you go. Thank you. Come again. All right. So,
okay. No, well done.
Thank you. Moral of the story is this, and this is how it would protect you. You're never going to please everyone. And especially people who want to take advantage of you are always going to do what they can to try to scare you. Fear is an amazing tool, but it's not something we should use lightly because we know what it feels like to have it used on us. I never encourage the use of fear, but it's good to understand its effects. When you're in fear, our thoughts often get clouded and we want to react rather than respond. I'm speaking to all of you out there that experience fear. Responding is better than reacting because you can control the narrative. When you can control the narrative, everyone who looks at that Facebook review now thinks better of your company, not worse.
You'll get work from it.
Sorry, go ahead.
You'll get work from it. I just want to throw that in.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're 100% correct.
In fact, you were saying?
Yeah, no, in fact, that's exactly what I was going to talk about.
Oh, sorry.
Like, in fact, no, it's fine. The people that look for certain companies, there are some that look for 5-star reviews. There's others that specifically look for 1-star reviews. Like if you got 500 5 stars, people aren't going to look at those. They're going to say, well, what's wrong with this company? But even if your 1-star review is you trying to serve at the highest level, what does that say about you?
Yeah. And the reality is, like, if we're talking Google, the algorithm favors quantity and quality. So if you're trying to get to the top of that list, right, it's going to look at the number of reviews. And it's going to look at the rating of those reviews, the average rating. If you got 500 5-star reviews, there's no need for anyone to look at it. It's flawless service. So they're not even going to read the reviews. It's just a numbers game. It's just algorithm fodder at that point. However, like you said, the flaws people will look for. I've done it personally. I want to see how you handle shitty situations and what the worst case is, because really hiring a contractor selection is an exercise in risk management.
Yeah.
What's the
risk?
It's
such a shame.
I got to know.
Can
Most
I touch on
consumers don't even know that, by the way, but that's really what's happening. Yeah, please jump in on it.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Forgive me for that. I wanted to speak to a specific situation that happened to me that I think would be really helpful for people who are understanding the situation. So when we talk about risk management, I remember when I built my basement, I did everything except for the floor, which I'm super proud of. But at the same time, I'm not a carpenter. You know what? Like I don't know how to do floors, and that's okay. So I hired someone to do them. And I chose a contractor that I thought had good reviews. Problem is, the floor is already starting to crack. Just installed, starting to crack. When I went to go ask the person to do a warranty claim, they did everything they could to pass the ball away from it. The thing is that you'll never really know until you're in that circumstance. But if you were go by and check your 1-star reviews, at the very least, I felt like I would have been protected. I didn't look at the 1 stars. I didn't. If I did, I would have seen has issues with warranty. Okay, this is on me now. But it'll give you advantage because if I saw 1-star reviews, but he was still acting like a professional, what complaint do I have? What could I possibly say against this person?
100%. 100%. And if people don't do their due diligence, then that's what happens. Like, I don't know if you've ever noticed this. You buy a vehicle, everything seems great, and then that catastrophic failure happens. And as soon as you go to search that failure, it's everywhere. there's a bias attached to that. It's hard to find what you can't. So those reviews and finding those negatives are actually really important. The buyers that know that will be some of your best buyers because they value a consistent delivery from a contractor. I mean, who wouldn't?
Mhm.
Who wouldn't this day and age? Isn't that what
Mhm.
we all fight? We're going out there every day. Just the first battle with every single new lead is letting them discover through your process that you're not there to sell them shit. You're not there to take advantage. You're not there to take a deposit and run. You're not there to make the situation worse or burn their house down. Isn't that the first battle we're all fighting?
I would agree with that. I really would.
All right. So if you haven't been scammed, you heard it here first. Joe's first action item: get scammed, get to know this thing.
You're
So that
throwing
you
me
can
under the
see
bus
it.
on that one.
I'm just kidding. Okay. On a real note, Joe, what do you got for an action item today?
So I have an action. I don't know if it's an all-star or an action, but I feel like it's important regardless. Can I just take a spin at it?
Throw it.
All right.
Javelin.
What?
Really toss this thing down the field.
Okay. All right. We'll do the
I'll
granny
let you know
underhand
if it's
pass.
all star or not. Okay.
Okay. So the action I would suggest is if you haven't already done this, I want you to go to look at all your reviews and I want you to specifically comment on all of them, regardless of what it is. And imagine that as you're commenting, that you're doing the steps that you can, as if you were going to be the one reading it. Say, if I read this review as a client or as a prospective client, what would I want to see? If you can handle that, what you're doing is you're actually getting in the mind of your client before they've even chosen to call you. And you'll be in a position to get past this.
Okay. I guess that's action.
Yeah.
All-star action. Ready for this?
Hit me.
If you notice that your grandmother's at Safeway for an extraordinary amount of time and she's trying to pay the CRA with Xbox and PlayStation cards, stop her. No, that's a joke with reference to my earlier scam problem there. Honestly, I don't have an all-star action prepped here, Joe. I'm having
Let's go through it
trouble.
together then.
You know what? Paperwork's the all-star. Have this stuff drawn up already for your business. Have quality documentations. Honestly, I said I'm document heavy, so this fits well with an all-star action. Here's something I have in my last residential service calls that I did. I not only had an inspection piece, but I also had a job commissioning form. Okay. And the reason for that is similar situations, but when the job is done. So a job commissioning form simply had just like a 1 page or 2 pages tops at times, where I even had a spot to do a quick drawing, a sketch of what we were working on. Or if it was online, I could put a photo in there of what we were working on, the circuitry, the changes, our understanding of the problem, the observations, what we're trying to do. And just a step-by-step action item and a sign off at the bottom to say that we energized, improved all systems. When the client signs that and you sign that, this, by the way, is an extremely effective method to hold your team, your staff, your techs accountable to finishing to the last drop, because we all know that can be a problem, right? Who's ever experienced their team drop the ball on a thing or two? Also, maybe another podcast we haven't done, like call by call dispatch, right? Similar theory to hold them accountable to the nth degree. This little sheet can do the same thing. Not to mention, this becomes something we call house facts, which doesn't exist for some reason. There's car facts. Everyone seems to know the whole entire history of your car, but the only history we have of your house is what the most recent home inspector said and whatever the last owners kept in the filing cabinet. It's unacceptable, in my personal opinion. And so this little service doc, this commissioning doc, can become that. It can track what we did, what the observations were, what we did, and how it finished, and the readings that we had. Is that next level all-star or what?
I think that's definitely some serious ammunition right there.
Okay, we did it. And we're out of time, Joe. Anything else before we close this one out?
I have a feeling that this is going to have to be more episodes on this, because there's such a depth we can talk about when it comes to how to avoid people from getting scammed. But I feel like we did a pretty good cover for today. And I'm looking forward to, if anyone wants more content on this, let us know where you were scammed and we'll happily talk to you about how you could have overcome it.
We'll run through it. Guys, this has been another episode of Electropreneur Secrets, the Electricians Podcast, where we are here devoted to helping you master your sales, simplify your pricing, and deliver premium level electrical service. In fact, because you didn't pay to be here or take these action items or take any of this advice, use it at your own risk, but know that you're also a freemium service provider, because this was 100% free gold for your taking. Guys, I can't wait to join you again tomorrow. We'll see you
Take
on
care, all.
Thursday. Bye-bye.